Story 1. If you are ever disturbed by something terrible, like witnessing death or knowing a war is about to begin, go for a walk. There is nothing you can do. Just walk. Do it as much as you can until that terrible feeling passes. Some people sit with it and it drives them mad. At least walk until you are tired. Story 2. Some great advice here, but one that made a huge difference for me. If you want confidence, climb a mountain and tell no one. Confidence comes from within, from having faith in your own ability to accomplish things, not from others knowing how great you are. Story 3. Do something kind for someone else every day. Honestly, the most effective thing I have ever found for improving my mental health. Story 4. The mother I knew is gone. I need to mourn her and move on. My mother became an alcoholic, and it completely changed her personality. I just wanted her back, but she was not going to return, at least not in the same way. I didn't see it as a death until a counselor pointed it out. It felt like a death, and I still miss who she was, but I cannot keep hurting myself by trying to get that person back. Story 5. Take joy in whatever little things you can. If brushing your teeth feels good, then embrace that. Story 6. I look into a mirror and say out loud, I am good enough, I am smart enough, and people like me. Story 7. One of the best pieces of mental advice I've ever heard is, you are not responsible for other people's perceptions of you. It resonated with me because I used to overthink how others saw me, whether they misunderstood my intentions or judged me unfairly. At the end of the day, you can't control how people interpret your actions or words. You can only stay true to yourself, set boundaries, and surround yourself with those who genuinely understand and respect you. Letting go of the need to be liked by everyone is liberating. Story 8. Mental illness isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. Of course, you're going to be anxious. What you need to do is acknowledge your anxiety and take it along for the ride. Story 9. Joke about yourself in a positive way. If you trip, instead of calling yourself clumsy, say the ground is obviously in love with you. If you realize you're wearing a top inside out, say you are just a fashion genius starting a new trend. Start in your mind. Don't criticize yourself internally. Instead, find a way to turn it into a humorous positive. Eventually, you'll say it out loud, and it will have a positive impact on your self-esteem and overall image. Story 10. Let people be upset. If you haven't done anything morally wrong and haven't hurt anyone, allow them to express their anger. That anger is directed at themselves, not at you. Story 11. Do whatever you need to feel better, but do it safely. In the end, walk out alive. What you do is up to you. No one but yourself can help you. You control nothing around you but yourself. So when you feel helpless and without hope, realize that the best you can do is damage control. Story 12. Mental health issues are no different from cancer in terms of the stigma attached to them. Would you be ashamed to tell people you had cancer? No. Why are you ashamed to tell people you are struggling with mental health? Story 13. You are not responsible for your partner's feelings. You cannot be their partner and their caregiver or therapist. Story 14. Look for what makes you feel good and stay away from those who do not contribute positively. In the long run, you will appreciate it. Many people do not seek your happiness, even if they claim otherwise. Story 15. To completely stop caring about what others think of me, it's really none of my business. This helped me a lot. Story 16. The behavior of others reflects more about them than it does about you. Story 17. In college for a psychology degree, I had only one professor who said, when we refer to disorders, we do not say, this person is bipolar. We say, this person is suffering from the symptoms of bipolar disorder, or this person is suffering from symptoms of schizophrenia. That kind of shift in language goes a long way toward changing our perceptions of the experiences of others, and I hope to receive that kind of empathy if I ever experience such life-altering symptoms. Story 18. Thoughts are like clouds. You can see them and acknowledge them, but you do not have to keep them. Let them float by. Story 19. From a lady at the psychiatric ward. When I told her I was admitted due to a near-suicide attempt, she said, life is hard but precious. so you have to hold on to it. This has stayed with me ever since. Story 20. We are the sum of our decisions. There will always be challenges, but there is also good. Strive to make positive choices, as they will lead to a better life. Story 21. I wish I could give you some insight, but the struggle is real for me right now. I truly appreciate the questions and the responses from all of you. God bless. Story 22. Find gratitude within yourself. Train yourself to seek it out. This will take practice and may not be easy, but it is worth the effort. Eventually, it will start to become a habit. Next, look for gratitude in others. If you can surround yourself with fellow seekers of gratitude, you will have a life that others may envy. If that is not possible, your search for gratitude will likely inspire it in those around you. Practice consistently. Story 23. The glass is already broken, a concept from Stoicism. Anticipating possible disappointment removes its potential power, making it easier to deal with challenges and keep moving forward, rather than getting bogged down in negative feelings. Story 24. Drop the words that enslave you. Need to, must, have to, got to, ought to. They all remove choice, and that's depressing. Story 25. Give yourself permission to be just okay at something. Perfectionism is overwhelming and unattainable. Story 26. Our feelings arise from the difference between what we desire and what actually occurs. When these are aligned, we experience positive emotions. When they are not aligned, we experience negative emotions. The simple truth here is that if you do not know what you want, you cannot be happy. Therefore, take time to set some goals and work towards them. Periodically reflect on how you feel, and then continue your efforts. Story 27. Unless you are in management and your team may need you after work hours, turn off notifications from emails or chats. Separate your free time from your work time. Story 28. You cannot make other people happy. They need to create their own happiness and share it with yours. Story 29. Something like, you don't like it when people physically control you, so why let them mentally control you? If it doesn't do you any good and isn't directly impacting you, then do not expend any energy worrying about it or letting it occupy space in your mind. Story 30. If you are stuck in a bad habit or a difficult situation, you are choosing to be there. It was a harsh reality I needed to hear because it was a choice I was making for myself. I was choosing bad company. I was choosing to be intoxicated daily. I was choosing to engage in risky behavior, and I was choosing to eat whenever I felt depressed or bored. These actions, while they provided temporary comfort, never addressed the underlying issues I was facing and only made things worse. My mental state was in disarray, and my therapist told me directly that I was choosing to be there. I quit drinking abruptly. I started counting my calories. I cut contact with all the people who encouraged me to indulge in harmful activities, and I moved from a place where I had nothing to win with abundant opportunities. I made these choices because I was tired of feeling stuck, and I did not want to be stuck anymore. The better choices were very difficult to make, but ultimately, they improved my life. Story 31. You cannot take care of others if you are not taking care of yourself. It is okay to prioritize your own needs. Story 32. I suppose what is now just was and never will be again. If something is wonderful, cherish it forever. If something is not good, move on. I first read What is the best mental health advice you've never heard? And my answer was, your lack of attention to details isn't a character flaw. So there's that. Story 33. We do not live to feel happiness every single minute. That is an addictive mindset. We live to pursue meaning, and sometimes that meaning is happiness. However, often it is not. Story 34. To pause and ask yourself, is that really true? This applies to anxious thoughts and other people's judgments about you. Story 35. Your suffering is not artistic or beautiful. It is just suffering. It does not make you any more or less profound, so do not hold on to it for the sake of being perceived that way. Story 36. Other people do not control how you feel or act. You are responsible for your actions based on their behavior. Story 37. If you are getting angry and scaring someone, step back and really assess the situation. We do not hurt the people we love. This has helped me. Story 38. If you can't learn to love yourself, then you will never be able to accept a reality where someone loves you. If you take better care of yourself by eating well, developing a regular sleep schedule, drinking plenty of water, exercising, getting sunlight, and maintaining good hygiene, the self-doubt and self-loathing will gradually diminish. Don't feel like you need to do these things to meet a beauty standard. Rather, do them because you care about yourself and want to be the best version of yourself for you. Along this path of self-improvement, you may meet new friends or someone you'd be willing to share the journey with. Story 39. It wasn't even direct advice, but it resonated as guidance. I had been constantly ruminating and worrying about what my mind had chosen to torment me with that week, which was an ex. My therapist said, "All of these are emotions." She elaborated, but that one short sentence completely shifted my perspective. When I get really wrapped up in my thoughts, I lose all sense of scale. Everything feels like the end of the world, and I think I will feel this way forever. It really hit home for me that these aren't action items. I don't need to do anything. It's okay to just experience the emotion. It will pass eventually, but in the meantime, it's okay to feel however you feel. Story 40. Let it go. There is almost nothing in my life that is worth getting worked up over. 99% is either out of my control or is something that won't make any difference in my life 24 hours later. Let all that go. Don't suffer over the small stuff. Don't let your emotions control your life. However you want to phrase it, just realize most of it is not worth your time or energy. Story 41. You are not entitled to anything from anyone. You get what you are given, and the choice is whether to accept it or walk away. Story 42. For people in school, my best friend told me this: leave it. In 3 years, once school is done, you are automatically going to know who is true to you and who is not. So just bear with it. Story 43. Mom told me that physical pain is your body telling you to stop doing whatever you are doing. The same goes for mental pain or sadness. It's your brain telling you to stop. So spend some time figuring out your life. I have a saying, yin, yang, yeet. Story 44. Anything worth doing is worth doing. Don't worry about being perfect. If you need to do something, don't delay it for a week because you can't do it well at the moment. Do the minimum necessary to get the important tasks completed. Story 45. Wind therapy works with motorcycles, horses, running, and more. It involves engaging your body using all 4 limbs and focusing on something other than your worries. This process helps you gain perspective, eases anger, and calms your mind. Story 46. If you truly love something, let it go. If it comes back, it is yours. If it doesn't, it was never meant to be yours. The time I realized how much these words meant, I had already lost everything. Yet, it is best to let fate decide your path. Story 47. You cannot pour from an empty cup. In other words, you cannot set yourself on fire to warm someone else. Essentially, you must take care of yourself to some degree before you can help others in a meaningful way. Story 48. Keep boundaries between work and personal time. I don't mean that you never work late, but don't treat your weekends and evenings as additional time to meet work deadlines. It is better to work reliably in the long term rather than risk burning out for this month's project. Story 49. An old head chef of mine once told me, if you are feeling down or having a bad day, change your socks. You will feel much better. He was right. Story 50. If you are too depressed to leave the bed, start by lifting both arms for a few seconds. Then transition to lying on the floor. In other words, take baby steps. Recovery will take time. Don't hate yourself just because you cannot snap out of it. Story 51. Your sources of happiness are things that are external to you. That is a problem. It took a long time to figure out how to find sources of happiness from within. Story 52. A healthy body promotes a healthy mind. Living healthier through diet and exercise can reduce stress and increase happiness. However, the key challenge is breaking the cycle. I have been on that uphill struggle for a while, so I am overdue for a period of self-care. Story 53. You can make it to bedtime. Even the most horrific day on earth will eventually end, and it will be dawn again. Story 54. Run the dishwasher twice. I heard it in reference to dirty dishes causing someone anxiety, so their therapist said to run the dishwasher twice. What I interpreted is that you are in charge of whatever you need to do. It may be common to rinse dishes and then put them in the dishwasher once, but you are in control of yourself and your belongings. If you want to get clothes out of the dryer every day instead of folding laundry, go for it. If you want to spend some money to have someone mow your yard, go for it. Story 55. Just because you have a thought enter your mind doesn't mean you have to engage with it. Thoughts will come, but we do not have to give energy to them. Story 56. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Many people, including myself, tend to feel worse about feeling bad. Story 57. Forget it, friend. Let's go bowling. To be clear, bowling represents whatever makes one happiest and most relaxed. It could be music, cooking, gardening, reading, or anything that brings joy. Story 58. The Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one person I can, and the wisdom to know that person is me. Story 59. Don't compare your inner self with the outward appearances of others. Even if you lie to others, do not lie to yourself. I heard that in middle school from a strict principal, and it stuck with me for some reason. Now, almost 60, those two statements have saved me a lot of grief. Story 60. Therapy is great for finding ways to cope with what you are going through, but the best way to cope will always be to deal with it and confront it head-on. Whether that means addressing it or revealing the feelings you have bottled up for years. Story 61. There is no magic solution, but the recommendations everyone mentions are repeated for a reason. Healthy foods, exercise, community support, therapy, journaling, meditation, and hobbies are all valuable. Use a combination of different tools that help you feel better. Story 62. You do not have to fix everything at once. Just focus on the next right step. Progress, no matter how small, still counts. Story 63. When you feel like there is nothing you can do, but you cannot do nothing, do what you can and no more. Story 64. Self-care isn't just bubble baths and body lotion. It's about getting things done that you have been ignoring. Stop procrastinating. Make the phone call. Do the laundry or dishes. Take some action that will benefit you. Start with 5 or 10 minutes if you need to. Just do one thing. Hopefully, you will realize that it feels better and isn't as bad as you thought, which will lead to doing more. Story 65. I love going to the gym. My mood improves. I feel sharper, lighter, and more focused. It's amazing. I wish I had started sooner. I am 18 months into my fitness journey and I love it. Story 66. Buy a motorcycle and enjoy the peace while riding. Get into nature, climb a large hill or mountain, and look down at the people below. It will put things into perspective. Story 67. I have a family member who has obsessive-compulsive disorder, and her thoughts were, if I don't get a 90%, then my mom will die. This is very debilitating for her. Story 68. Not as advice like a direct quote, but if you struggle with sensory issues, try using a red marker instead. I struggled with it for about 5 to 7 years, on and off. I tried rubber bands and distractions. It wasn't until I had a meltdown, grabbed a marker, and went wild that something mentally snapped. I haven't been able to do that to myself in any capacity since then, including body piercing, which used to be something I was heavily into. Story 69. I got sober a year ago and initially felt like an imposter in sobriety groups because I still had a lot to learn. This was a group that included many individuals mandated by the court. The facilitator told me, rock bottom is when you put down the shovel. Story 70. If you started fresh today without any knowledge of your history, would you feel free to do anything? Story 71. Rest. Eat good quality food. Get your vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin D3, magnesium, and healthy animal fats. You could have just those items I mentioned in water for 3 days, and it would reset your body and mind to a more natural state. Story 72. You are not unhealthy. You are experiencing natural reactions to harmful situations and behaviors that are negatively impacting you and your quality of life. Story 73. I was weeping loudly when I was 18 because a boy rejected me. An acquaintance said, "Oh, just grow up." That hit hard, but it was what I needed. I shut myself in, reflected on the situation and my childish behavior, and moved on with my life. Story 74. This might resonate with someone. I had a dream when I was feeling low and wanted life to end. In my dream, I saw myself ending my life, so I ran downstairs to my mom. She said to me, "Don't let your thoughts awaken." This honestly stopped me from feeling that way, and I never thought about harming myself again. I felt how powerful that is. Don't let your thoughts awaken. Story 75. It's not advice exactly, and it's something I saw more than heard. I've struggled with mental illness, leading to dark thoughts on and off for long periods of my adult life. 2 years ago, a close friend lost her husband to suicide. Watching her go through that and try to pick up the pieces of her life while feeling broken and blaming herself, I haven't considered doing anything to myself since, and I don't think I ever will again. I know she was a good wife. I know her husband was deeply loved, and he knew that. Every time I've heard that voice in my head suggest that it might be better if I weren't here, I recognize it as the same voice he must have heard. It's complete nonsense because there is a significant void where he used to be, and nothing is better with him gone. They used to cook together, and now I can feel the weight she's lost every time I hug her, and her mother reminds her to eat. I guess the insight is that the world has never been better because of someone's death. Story 76. If something is not going to affect you in the next 5 years, it is not worth 2 minutes of your time. Story 77. For individuals with generalized anxiety, every time you start to think, "What if something terrible happens?" remember that until it occurs, the opposite is just as likely. Even if it is not statistically true, training your brain to consider the opposite possibility can be beneficial. Story 78. There is no consequence against your mind. It helped me a lot to realize that fighting back against the voice or feelings in my head won't harm me. I tell it no. Story 79. Let that go. Does it affect you in any way? Does it affect your paycheck, your health, your relationship, or your well-being? No? Then let it go. For instance, a woman at the gym today gave me a disapproving look because I got on the elliptical next to her, and apparently I was breathing too loudly. She left after 10 minutes, muttering under her breath, thinking I wouldn't hear her with my earbuds in. Yes, I am overweight, and yes, I was breathing heavily. One person might fret over this all day. Why did she call me a name? It's rude to call me a cow. Alternatively, I can watch her walk away and just return to what I was doing, now with more breathing room because she's not next to me. Her attitude and opinion do not affect me in any way, so I let it go. Story 80. There are people who are perpetually angry. There is always something for them to complain about or be unhappy about. You can choose what angers you or choose not to let something anger you today. If you see something that bothers, offends, or annoys you, it's okay. But are you going to let this ruin your day? Don't. Your blood pressure will thank you in a few years. Story 81. During my first session with my therapist, he told me, when a kitchen trash bag is full, adding just one more bottle can make it burst. But when it does, it's not just the bottle that spills. Everything pours out all over the floor. One bottle seems so small compared to the mess. That was the first time I truly understood my anger and how much it's connected to my sadness. Story 82. You are not defined by your mental health issues. You live with them or manage them. Your mental health does not define you any more than your skin color or your favorite food does. Story 83. If you are experiencing thoughts of self-harm, please seek help from a mental health professional. There are people who care about you and can support you in finding healthier ways to cope. Story 84. When I have something I need to do or should do but don't want to, I rephrase it and say it out loud. I get to whatever is happening. It truly changes your mindset. You become grateful. It no longer has a hold on you. It's easy to forget that when hard or uncomfortable things are happening, we are in an enviable position. I heard this phrase from actor Steve Guttenberg, who is brilliant at creating a positive mindset and operating from a place of gratitude. Story 85. Things will always get bad again, but they will also always get better. Additionally, at some point, things will not get as bad as they were. Story 86. Be humble. Try to put others before yourself. Get enough sleep, comfortable shoes, and a good mattress. Eat healthy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.